Yesterday he was suffering from pre-wedding nerves. Suffer from pre-wedding nerves.
I've been having some pre-wedding jitters.
You have pre-wedding jitters.
I put it down to pre-match nerves.
Just wedding nerves.
Bit tense. Wedding nerves.
Either of you know any impediment why you may not be lawfully joined in matrimony?
Before you are joined in matrimony, I have to remind you of the solemn and binding character of the vows you are about to make.
And Joe, when our families joined in matrimony, we became one family, and I am heard.
May not be joined in matrimony to Lydia Jane Hibbert.
Actually allowing them to be joined in holy matrimony.
Not only because they're being joined in holy matrimony.
You care to join me in holy matrimony?
Carl and Susan in holy matrimony.
We're here today to join in matrimony.
It's a movable feast.
Let's hope this movable feast is too hard to resist.
This is why Christmas, a fixed feast, occurs on the same date every year, but Easter, a movable feast, based on the lunar cycle, moves around.
All yours. It's your treasure. It's your movable feast.
Different religion often have movable feasts.
Different religion often have movable feasts.
Free. Now, I've asked that question. And the train operator's response, and I'm going to quote, train operating companies are not in a position to allow free travel for companions as their
variety. However, these unique varieties proved difficult for train operators to package and for traders to sell.
You can help train operators actually figure out train capacity in a way that is optimal.
School. Will my right honourable friend outline what measures the government is taking to penalise poor-performing train operators?
The next largest cost for train operators is that of the trains themselves.
In line with the other train operators, ScotRail has been assessing its actual patronage to match services against current demand.
Some major train operators have paid as much as 90% of their profits to their shareholders. My constituents regularly complain about delays across the whole rail network. Some major train operators have paid as much as 90% of their profits to their shareholders. My constituents regularly complain about delays across the whole rail network, as well as about cramped trains and high ticket prices.
And the Department of Transport, I understand, is encouraging other train operators to do similarly.
And although the disputes are between the union and the train operators, the government's doing all it can to help resolve the issue.
Why should train operators benefit financially from failure to deliver a decent service when it's the passengers who suffer the aggro inconvenience and cost?
We're discussing with the train operators how to make sure that we get a replacement bus service as good as possible over the days ahead.
There's a holdup on Hollywood Boulevard at Western where a traffic accident has tailbacks for half a mile.
Train operators hope to increase frequencies and passenger capacity by 28%.
At Network Rail and train operators who are reminding passengers to follow public health advice as temperatures are set to soar. With temperatures set to reach the mid-30s in parts.
Certainly would not. And at this festive season.
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, many of us feel that we must take care of our poor and homeless.
At this festive season, Father, to throw it up to me, to bring that up again.
Nobody's bringing that up.
Yes, they are.
Everyone, Reginald and I would like to thank you all so much for joining us in celebrating this festive season.
Unless we can draw them up this main road here in between these buildings where all the rubble makes a bit of a bottleneck.
Huge bottlenecks on routes 2 and 471.
To alleviate that bottleneck. Now, there are enormous problems with trying to do something to alleviate that bottleneck.
Road building programs have aimed to alleviate bottlenecks in key areas. Alleviate bottlenecks.
We need more park and rides on both the north and the east, and we're going to be building that at the Ronkonkoma hub on Long Island, the Nassau hub, and north in Tarrytown, extensive park and ride facilities to get people on the train.
things like park and ride sites that we are currently developing will need to be extended north, south, east and west of the town.
Well, there is one out-of-town park and ride facility, and this is it. Why is it so empty? Because nobody in their right mind would want to use it. To be sure, there is a good bus service that runs every 15 minutes, but this place is on the wrong side of town. This is okay if you're driving in from Darmstadt, but if you're coming from, say, the Autobahn, like most people would...
We made a quick stop at Shores Road to check out the park and ride facility, the largest of 3 on the network. This one has spaces for over 800 cars and is so large that the eastern end of the car park is actually physically nearer to the next subway stop along the line.
The station will include a park and ride facility and passenger drop-off area.
By car, there are 3 park and ride locations, bringing you into the city from £4 a day. Or grab a coach from the London terminals, prices from £15.
There are lots of options and Cambridge has good rail and coach connections. But if driving is a must, then consider using park and ride services as parking spaces can be limited.
Parking garage and reaches the University City Boulevard station, the largest of the 4 park and ride lots with 1,500 parking spaces.
Given the need to look at increased demand for park and ride services, can the Cabinet Secretary outline what steps can be taken to make better use of the benefits of the public transport corridor?
Bygone era. First Minister agree that it's time to ditch this dated and dirty project from a bygone era and invest this sum instead in public transport, park and rides, cycling and walking.
This one happens to be less than a mile to a park and ride, which gets you almost anywhere in the valley for employment. So this is...
It was the expense of maintaining those park and ride lots that drove them to say, we need a different solution. So in that case, they were looking for perhaps just a very limited solution in addressing how do we address this expensive parking problem. But
there, and then go park your car in the park and ride lot and live out of your car for a few days.
Exercise Control 007 here. I'll report in an hour.
Power means exercising control over others.
I have no time for idle chatter.
Every time I broach the subject, he bristles.
This is all wrong. Just ignore it, and I promise I'll never broach the subject again.
Perhaps if I were to broach the subject with her, her natural shyness might find some release.